So, hi, my name is Rob with Feedback Wiz, and I'm here today with Nick Valke from Product Fuel. And today we're going to be talking mainly about launching products on Amazon. And one of the things that we've been talking about, is basically, well, actually, let's start with how did you get started selling? Let's start with that.
So my family used to own an auction house in the middle of nowhere, and we had a very good contract with the local government and schools to get any surplus materials that they were getting rid of. Unfortunately, whenever you get 25 school buses, there's not really a good way to sell them in a town of 20,000 people. This led us onto eBay. We were able to sell a lot of our really big stuff, floor Hobart mixers, school buses, etc., through the platform. And at the time, we also have a couple other businesses running, including some retail stores. As I got older, I started to work at these retail stores, opened up a new one, and kind of through the same process figured out, hey, selling stuff on online marketplaces is the way to go. We threw our products on eBay and Amazon, and pretty much overnight tripled the revenue of that location. And after about 6 months, we unfortunately had Amazon and eBay ban the products that we sell from being sold on their platforms. Ouch. And that led me into the consulting side of things, where a couple of our manufacturers had reached out to us asking if we could help them sell on Amazon. At the time, we had turned them down because we were busy with our own stuff. Well, now our own stuff isn't able to be sold anymore. It's a lot more interesting of a proposition. So we reached out to a couple of them, started working with a few of them. Living in Austin at the time, I started reaching out to a couple local companies that were looking for help expanding onto marketplaces as well, and was able to work with or for them to help them get onto Amazon and some other marketplaces.
So wait, I'm gonna have you back up slightly. So Hobarts and buses are not small items. So I'm kind of curious. How did you did you ship those things? Sold them locally?
eBay at the time, thankfully, and I think they still do for their larger items, especially on the vehicle side, allow for local pickup.
Yes.
So
yes,
we washed our hands of the logistics side of things entirely there, and we're able to pretty much just run it as we normally would.
Sure.
And people would just come pick their stuff up. We gave them a week, and then we'd go ahead and relist after that.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the company you work for, and why don't you explain what you guys do, what kind of services you offer?
For sure. So I'm the COO of Product Fuel. We're a full turnkey Amazon management service. So if you have a product that's unique and you're bringing it to market, you want to sell it on Amazon, we handle everything for you. From handling the images, content, marketing, A/B testing thereof of all of those. And then the only thing you're going to have to do if you work with us is make sure that you have enough inventory to send in based on the projections we give you.
Yeah.
And watch the paycheck come in from Amazon twice per month.
Nice. Now, let me ask this, is if I have a couple products, I'm doing maybe 6 figures, is that something I should come to you, or do you handle bigger accounts or all accounts?
Yeah, we're open to working with anyone. Most of our clients we do end up getting from the crowdfunding space, so it's people who are new to the market, and from there we're able to launch them on Amazon rather successfully. We do have a couple clients though who either were selling on Amazon and were already successful, but we saw room for opportunity, or they were selling on Amazon but weren't really seeing any success at all, and we were able to get the flywheel turning and improve their sales to actually be a reasonable channel for them.
So let me ask this. There's kind of the whole theory of, or the whole thing of, okay, I'll sell this niche thing, or I'll just rebrand things, put my name on it and sell that. What have you seen as far as what you guys do? Do you deal with all those or some of those, and what do you recommend?
So we only deal with products that have unique selling propositions, meaning we want something that from the main image, the customer can determine that it's different from anything else being sold in that category. A lot of the times these are patented. We really don't like to work with commoditized products simply because there's a lot of money that has to be thrown behind it, and it makes it hard to justify any type of kind of risky or more effective marketing technique.
Yeah. So, I mean, you found that a lot of the niche type things, or things that people have, let's say, created or that came up with an idea, tend to do usually better.
Exactly. If you can iterate on an already popular product in a unique way, I think the most common example in the Amazon space is the Bluetooth speakers.
Yep.
They came around, everyone private labeled a ton of them, and some guys pulled all the reviews from the popular ones, realized that everyone was asking for them to be waterproof and that no one had made a waterproof one.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, they ended up selling 15 million in a single year of that SKU.
Yeah.
So if you can find something that's already being bought a lot on Amazon, that you can create a unique aspect of.
The better mousetrap, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anything that's super commoditized, unless you have a very, very, very large amount of capital behind, there's not any way you'll be able to compete with the guys that like to play in that space. A lot of them have lines of credit approaching $1 billion, and very few people that I know would be able to even try and compete with them, much less actually succeed.
Yeah. So this is going to be kind of a broad question with has a lot to it, but let's start with like some things to watch out for when you're getting started to sell on Amazon. When you're first launching your product, I mean, I'm sure there's hundreds of things to watch out for, but why don't you maybe give us some of the top things that people should watch out for when they're starting to sell on Amazon and launching a product?
For sure. I think one of the main things, I touched on it a little bit, is that a lot of the times people will go for a product that sells very well, but they're not actually looking at the market as a whole. Something like jade rollers right now is a really good example. Yeah, they sell great on Amazon.
Yeah.
There's also a good 15,000 of them listed currently. So,
flooded market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If not having a product that can differentiate from anyone else in your space is the biggest mistake you can make, in my opinion, on Amazon. Because everything else you do, even if you have an incredibly optimized listing, if people can't tell the difference of your product from someone else's from the description, or excuse me, from the title or from the image, they're not going to click on it in the first place.
Now, if you took that roller and added something to it that was, made it that, hey, it's a different version of it, it has an extra feature or something, but that could be something that would set it apart from those other ones.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Something like that, though, is kind of what you were touching on a little bit with the whole, different mousetrap or building something better.
Sure.
So,
and if you have a product that's not going to move, it kind of hamstrings your whole business. So if product research is rather hard to do, but it's worth spending the time to figure out something good before you pull the trigger and end up sitting on capital for a really long time.
Yeah. So the business you guys do is after people have gone out there, they've either created a product, found a product they want to sell prior to launching, or usually after they've launched, or both?
It's both. Most of our clients, and where we prefer to be, is before launch.
Okay.
That way we're able to provide insight and give people our best practices we've seen. We've done a lot of Kickstarter launches, a lot of product launches through our own website and on Amazon. While Amazon is our focus, we have a lot of experience in those other areas, and there's a pretty big halo effect where if you get one of them working well, people will go onto their preferred platform to purchase. So it's all very synergistic.
Gotcha. Yeah, so they get the product, they're gonna bring a product to market. They've either invented it or came up with an idea or a better mousetrap.
Yep.
They come to you. How does that process work? Like, when do they just say, "Hey, I'm hiring you," or what do you go through to kind of like onboard them and bring them on and decide whether you're going to work with them or not?
We go through a quick call. It is not too long. Generally, we'll discuss their product, what potential we see for it, and then how we can best work together to be able to optimize their sales on that channel.
Sure.
So anyone who's interested essentially flows in through our website. There's a contact us form there. Fill out your info, and then we reach out to you and figure out if it'd be a good fit. If for whatever reason it wouldn't be, if you have a commoditized product that you sell well, if you're perhaps too small of a niche for us to be something that we'll focus on, we have a couple other people that we can refer you to that will not slow down the process for you any at all. So even if it's someone that isn't our ideal client, we can still help them out by getting them to someone who can.
Okay, so I got a product. I'm going to put it on Amazon. What kind of recommendations as I go through that process of getting it onto Amazon? I'm going to grab my iPhone, take a couple photos of it, I'm going to throw it up there, put a title and description that I got from the manufacturer, and put a price on it. No, I can't do that.
Not exactly.
That's not the right way. I mean, I just launched my product. I'm good, right? So why don't you step us through kind of the process, and maybe as we go through that process, let's talk about some maybe best practices as they get going.
For sure. So I think hand in hand with product research goes keyword research for said product. So in finding your product, you want to have something that has a lot of keywords, that get a lot of search volume, that hopefully aren't competitive. That's kind of a unicorn, but hopefully your unique selling proposition helps you out there.
Sure.
And with the keywords, you need to make sure that they index really quickly with the product. And that means they need to be either in the back-end keyword section, where Amazon gives you a spot where you can put 250 bytes of data and it'll automatically index for those, or
and that's something that Amazon provides, right?
Exactly.
Like, okay.
That's on like the back end of the listing.
So,
and then, or the title. So either of those are really well where you want to put your keywords so that they'll get indexed quickly.
Sure. Well, let's stop and talk about titles first.
Sure.
So I've heard, and being that I've sold on Amazon and eBay in the past before I sold my business, titles are a big thing. I mean, you need to have keywords in there. You want to SEO them. You don't want to just go grab somebody else's title and change a couple words on it because they're number one or at the top when you search that. So let's talk about titles and maybe any tips or hints on that, what people should do when they're creating that title, besides maybe researching it.
Yeah, for sure. So if you have a product that has a unique selling proposition, theoretically, you can't even use your competitor's title because you'll have something unique about your product that you really want to get in the face of your customer. And that is going to be the first thing that you're going to change. But beyond that, you really want to be able to show how your product can solve a need. So instead of saying, this is a foam roller for muscles, you would say this is a foam roller for this type of skeletal muscular pain,
like a specific one or something.
Exactly.
You're targeting it. You're getting a little more targeted.
For sure. So longer tail keywords are not necessarily required, but it's nice to have a variety of stuff there. You don't want to hammer the same point essentially, or the same need that you're getting in that title repeatedly.
So how do I know if I got a good title? Like, I mean, and I don't mean like I throw it up there and it starts selling and showing up, but like as I'm creating it, how do I know if I got that right keyword in there, or, is there any way I test it, or should I just, what do I do?
There's a lot of different softwares out there to be able to pull exact keyword data.
Okay.
And so that's where you'll be able to get your initial list of what you really should have in the title. From there, you can configure it a couple different ways, and there's various different services out there that will also allow you to A/B test said titles before you push them to market.
Gotcha.
So you can even select for Amazon customers specifically, and then ask them which of the titles they think is best.
Yeah.
And that's super helpful, so you're not sitting there wasting money, getting impressions on a listing that people aren't going to convert for, so on and so forth.
Okay, so going through the listing, we've covered the title. Let's go with images. Grabbed my iPhone. I got some nice lights. Threw a couple photos on there. Good to go?
Again, so you really want to do most things professionally if possible.
Okay.
Copywriting is not necessarily required to have someone else do it, but especially photos, that's going to be the first thing that mobile customers especially look at when it comes to your product. I don't know how familiar you all are with Amazon's mobile platform, but it doesn't actually provide easy access to any of the text that you input. It gives you the first 2 to 3 bullet points depending on the category, and then everything else is below a fold that you have to click into and then scroll down to view. Images are mostly what mobile customers get converted by.
Yeah.
So by having ones that are very well optimized, both with the initial shots being high quality, and then beyond that, getting whatever your unique selling proposition is front and center in all of the various images. And in non-main images, we can have graphical overlays, et cetera, that help with that.
Yeah.
But really making sure that main image pops is something that's not as easy to do as one would think. It's not as simple as putting it on a white background and getting a picture.
Yeah. So let's go a little deeper into the images. I know you and I were talking last night, and you were talking a little bit more in depth about images, and you were I was saying, hey, if you got this item and it has buttons on it, you should point out what each of the buttons do and, describe them. That way when people are looking at it, they can see, oh, this pauses or this plays or this does that or,
Exactly.
So
if you have a feature in your product that's not standard, people aren't going to know what it is when they see it. So if you can point it out more and more throughout your images, it's super helpful and will increase your conversions pretty exponentially.
Yeah. Now let's talk about on still sticking with images. You were mentioning text or you can have information on there. Mm-hmm. How about what I shouldn't put on there as far as text or, things like that?
Warranty information is a pretty straightforward one. And then don't include text on your main image. Again, pretty simple.
Okay.
Any Amazon logos or Amazon graphics are a no-go. Your listings will automatically get pulled there. Competitors, brand names, anything like that. Don't step on anyone else's toes.
Or your URL, your website.
Exactly.
Don't do things like that. Okay.
Don't try and push them outside of Amazon. Pretty standard stuff.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. Okay. So we've covered the title. We've covered the image. Let's go over the description. This seems to be one that I remember maybe 3-4 years ago wasn't as big as it became. And now it seems like descriptions are a pretty big thing. Like you really need to have a lot of information in there, a lot of keywords. I notice emojis in there nowadays, right? So why don't we talk about that a bit?
For sure, yeah. There is definitely a crowd of emoji users within bullet points. That's very true nowadays. And oddly enough, you said that there's a lot of keywords included with the descriptions and bullet points, but actually we've found through our tests it's not so important. The keywords in the description and bullet points don't actually index within Amazon at all.
Okay.
So really you want to, again, speak to your USPs there, talk about how your product's different.
Yep.
Go for a customer that is wanting to know a little bit more about the product. Don't repeat the same things in your description that were in your bullet points. If someone's getting that far, they're an informed consumer and they're going to want to know more about something before they convert. But really, that being said, focusing on the bullet points and getting your USPs in those first 2 or 3 where they will display on mobile, if the mobile user does scroll down, is really important. And the description is a lot less so. Even with the switch from basic descriptions of text only to enhanced brand content, we notice a very, very small uptick in conversions by having very professionally designed enhanced brand content pages.
Yeah.
So it's something that most Amazon customers are going to have already converted or hopped off the page by the time they get that low on it anyway.
Yeah. So a good example, I was the other day looking for some new lighting, right, for doing videos and stuff like that. And I was reading through the description, and luckily I was on a computer. And a lot of them would show in the image, and this is where it kind of ties together the image to the description. In the image, they would take the picture of the battery and they would basically dim it to kind of tell you like it's not included. Yep. And in my head, I'm thinking to myself, man, if it wasn't for reading the description to actually see the battery is not included, let's say I'm on my mobile device, I'm seeing this picture that's probably on a small screen and there's a battery even though it's dim. Okay, I'll buy that one because it looks like it comes with battery. And since you don't see the full description on mobile, so that right there is telling you, be really careful on the images, be careful on your description, Definitely. Make sure that they match each other. Don't put something in there and dim it unless it's essential that, like, if it's a screw that goes to a certain knob or something like that, you might have to show that so they're aware of it.
Or if it's a product that interfaces with your product. So if you have something that fits on something else, but that something else is not what you're selling, I think it's the only time that it's really kosher to have that kind of opaque, faded out product within your main image. Otherwise, it's definitely not terms of service compliant, much less helping you convert customers and not get returns.
A good suggestion is, if you have the capability, sell that item without the battery, make another listing with the battery and charge more for it, and give them those options. Because now, I actually went and looked at their store and I was going, I wonder if they sell it with the battery. I'll pay it so I don't have to go search around and find the battery separate. It'd be nice to just get it all in one package. So,
and thankfully, Amazon actually just released in EBC, it was previously only for A+ content, the ability to have comparison charts in the bottom of your descriptions.
That's right.
So it'd be the perfect opportunity to do some cross-selling. There's no need to have a wonky main image.
Yeah. So let's go on now. I mean, we're talking a lot about descriptions. We're talking about titles. We're talking about having keywords in there. So there's actually an area for keywords.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that and what we could do to make sure that we're getting those right keywords in there. You were saying how the descriptions aren't as like they used to be, where they would actually index them and go through and catch keywords. Now it's like they're not doing that. Who knows, a couple months from now they may change back, but exactly. There's actually a keyword area. So let's talk about that a bit.
Yeah, for sure. So it's in the back end of Amazon, close to where the bullet points are, essentially just in the edit listing section.
Sure.
And it doesn't show up on the front end, but it automatically indexes those keywords for any searches that are made on Amazon. You can fit 250 bytes of data into that field. And finally now, after about a year of that being the limit, Amazon changed the text box to only allow you to put 250 bytes in.
Yeah.
Previously, they allowed up to, I believe it was 1,000, and if you went above 250, they'd just automatically not include the data.
Yeah.
They didn't tell anyone at all. So it's one of those things where you really have to keep your ear to the ground, especially with how they're choosing like the strength index of that keyword, essentially. So how relevant it is to your product.
Yeah.
And making sure that if they change something about it, you're able to change your listing to stay relevant for said keyword.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. Let's talk about when you guys launch a product, pay-per-click, PPC. Is that something you guys use? Any strategies on that, or hey, just dump a bunch of money into it and see if it goes after I research some words? So what do you recommend on that?
The keyword research kind of goes hand in hand with this. First of all, I do recommend using pay-per-click at all points during Amazon selling, especially during your launch. The sales velocity during the first couple days of your item being created on Amazon are super important for ranking in certain keywords. And so pay-per-click is extra revenue.
Yep.
It helps boost that keyword. Always good to have, especially in the beginning. So after about a month, it's safe to crank it down and actually make PPC more of a profitable channel for yourself.
Gotcha.
But we're able to do this for our clients kind of from the get-go with the in-depth keyword research that we do. This lets us set up manual campaigns from the beginning and help save our customers a little bit more money and get them more relevant customers or more targeted customers towards their listings.
Yeah. So this is kind of a little bit of an oddball question, but like how long should somebody maybe spend on doing some of this research prior to putting that listing on? Looking into the PPC, checking for keywords before I kind of go up there and start writing that title, writing that description, getting all the keywords in there, getting the PPC. I mean, is that something I should spend a couple hours on or more per product? I mean, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I guess that depends on how efficient you are at doing it.
Sure. Everybody's going to vary, right?
Exactly. But you don't need a ton. If you're able to dominate a couple keywords, you can then revisit the listing and target a couple more.
Yeah.
So there's no need to, go grab 5,000 keywords that you think are all relevant for your product, when in reality, the top 10 or 15 of those are what you should actually be interested in.
Gotcha.
And from there, I just think it is really important to do that before you write anything, especially your titles, because that influences the entirety of the content that you'll include within. So.
Yeah. So going back to launching, or when you first launched that product, we were talking about how it's really crucial to get that kind of sales velocity. Mm-hmm. I've seen there's tools and sites out there that you can either do a coupon or a free giveaway. What's your thoughts on that? Do you guys use that?
We don't necessarily use any of those sites. They're a little risky, I think, especially recently. Amazon, within the past couple of weeks, has been sending people warnings and suspending them for some of the things done on those sites.
Okay.
I don't think it's inherently those sites so much as the method through which people are driving traffic. And that's not to say that I don't think something to increase velocity upon launch is a bad idea. But there are different ways to do it other than using these services and doing giveaways. If you look at a product launch more like a Kickstarter product launch, where you can, curate leads and have a list of people that are interested in your product before it ever goes live on Amazon, then you can do something, send them an email, send them a postcard, send them anything, telling them that the product's on Amazon, and you're able to get a lot of full price sales that way. The customer is happy because they get the product in 2 days instead of waiting forever like they would on something like Kickstarter. And you're still making revenue on the product instead of having to give it away as a marketing expense from the get-go, which especially for new sellers is a hard pill to swallow, right?
Yeah.
I just spent half of my money on this inventory and now you want me to give it away?
Yeah.
That's not the most sensical business practice.
So a couple of things I saw, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you launched that product. Let's say originally you were going to either charge for it or you were going to charge more for it to cover the shipping. There's obviously free shipping is an option. FBA, make sure it's there.
Yep.
Those can help with the velocity, right? I mean, if you've got the free shipping option.
Definitely. I think being FBA in today's market is pretty much required unless you have the capabilities to set up seller fulfilled Prime, but I don't think very many people do. The weighting that A9 Amazon search algorithm gives you by having Amazon Prime is exponential compared to something that doesn't have it.
Yeah.
A Prime product will pretty much always beat you out for that keyword if there is one.
Yeah. So speaking of A9, check out the blog on Feedback Wiz. We do have an A9 article just came up. I think we put it up about 5 weeks ago.
Nice.
Covers a lot about the A9 algorithm, how it works. And of course, it'll probably change in a couple months, but there's quite a bit of articles out there about A9, and it's something that people should become familiar with, right? If they're going to sell.
Exactly. It is Amazon's favorite black box to mess with, seemingly. Sure. But again, it's one of those things. There's a lot of data points out there. If you keep your eye to the ground and are actually paying attention to how things are moving, if suddenly all of your products drop in keyword rank to the third page, and you were previously on the first one, well, something changed.
Yeah.
And with enough data points, you're able to deduce what happened before Amazon says, "Hey, we made this change, and you should do this now."
So. If I sell an item, we talked about you probably shouldn't go out there and do the coupon thing. It could have a negative effect.
Yep.
What about if I just decide I'm going to take a loss on it and sell it for less on the site and then eventually raise the price?
So that, while seemingly a good practice, will kind of hamstring you later on.
Okay.
Amazon keeps a record of what your price was previously, and a lot of the deals, like lightning deals and best deals, are predicated upon this price. So you have to go lower than the lowest price in the past X months for those promotions. And if you do something like that, you're going to make it where you can't really use lightning deals or best deals for a long time and be profitable. And there are some products that can work for if they're ones that you just don't really want a large spike in sales velocity from a single day with. Something like supplements, so to say.
Yeah.
Not the worst strategy, but it definitely hampers your ability to use further marketing efforts down the line.
Yeah. So what about, let's go over categories. First of all, if you don't mind us asking, what categories have you helped with some of your customers?
Ooh.
And maybe which ones have you seen do the best? I'm going to put you on the spot.
All right. So as far as categories that I've worked in, I think there's not a single category that I haven't touched at this point within Amazon. I'm sure if you go far enough down the browse nodes, you'll find some subcategory that I never listed in. But overall, as far as the main categories go, we've hit them all. From items that are being manufactured, fulfilled, that are so large you have to fit them in a freight truck.
Oh, wow.
To stuff that is too small to ship by itself. We've hit a lot of different products. So as far as most successful goes, that's a really hard one. Most successful niches are very, very saturated, and unless you have a perfect product, there's going to be issues. So someone could be successful initially, and then there's a quality issue and negative reviews start to roll in, especially as they start to scale. We see this sometimes with our clients in like hand-worked goods, anything that's sewn, put together by humans. They start with a factory with a low MOQ. We scale them pretty quickly.
They
haven't found a new factory, and they start to become pretty bad QA issues.
Seen that happen.
Yep.
Had that happen personally. So I totally understand. What about categories that maybe you saw that weren't as good, or that you guys maybe avoid, or there is obviously a list of items you can't sell on Amazon.
Exactly, and I think that's kind of a double-edged sword. Sometimes the stuff that, there's stuff that you can't list, period, like the stuff that we started selling.
Sure.
But then there's also items that are restricted. And anything with a higher barrier to entry is by definition going to have less competition and be an easier item for you to get into. The one caveat I would say to that is the fine jewelry category on Amazon, which requires a $5,000 application fee, destructive testing of 10 pieces of jewelry,
Wow.
and they're really, really, really particular about how specific you get on all the details there. So I would say any category on Amazon is probably a good one to pick, except jewelry.
Okay. A lot of I'm assuming because jewelry, there's, QZ diamonds and this and that, and if something gets misrepresented, there could be a lot of issues.
So the FTC has really particular rules on what you describe certain things as, what can be called a precious gemstone, what can be called a gemstone, what can be called gold or gold plated or gold fused. They're all different, and they're all very strictly defined. And Amazon doesn't want a bad press article saying, hey, this person bought a counterfeit diamond ring on Amazon. That's the last thing they want. So in addition to the testing they do initially, Amazon will frequently do audits of your inventory, randomly pull 10 pieces, do destructive testing on it, and if any of those, if any of that information is incorrect, including like carat weights or metal types, they'll suspend your account. And
wow.
You won't be able to get back into the category. It's not a good time.
So you get your sales going, you've launched the product. How important are product reviews?
Super important, especially right off the bat. Now, you don't need a ton. Previously, Amazon actually, with product reviews, added that to the weight of where you would show up for keywords. But we're seeing nowadays, it matters less and less. It's more so just for conversions and social proofing. So if you can get, 15 to 20 positive reviews on your listing off the bat, it'll pretty much triple your conversion rate during that time period.
There you go.
Compared to having none or maybe one or two.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably mentioned this before in other videos, but I read an article, this was probably a couple months ago now, and it was talking about how if you even get one product review, it increases something like 5-fold on how many sales you get versus the person who has a 0.
Yep.
Just from one positive review. Now, what about the star rating, right? There's the 4.3 out of 5. There's the, kind of like that magic point that you stay up higher, let's say. Touch on that maybe a little bit.
So we found that that's actually category dependent.
Okay.
And it's not even necessarily that Amazon weights the star rating so much as in that category, customers are pickier about certain things. So something like apparel or baby goods, people care a lot about that star rating. And if it drops below 4.5, your conversions are going to tank. Therefore, your sales velocity is going to tank and your keyword ranking is going to tank. So, yeah.
All right. Wow. Yeah. So I know I'm probably missing something. So help me out. What other things do you guys do when you're launching something, launching an item or product? We covered the images, the titles, the descriptions are always, there. The PPC,
for sure,
keywords. One
thing that we find is pretty useful, especially if you have an in-depth product or something a little complicated, is actually product videos. There's a Amazon video short section in the bottom of, below the fold on product pages. And then if you are a brand registered brand, you can also actually upload your videos straight to the image block. So again, get that mobile viewership and hopefully increase conversions with a really compelling video.
Yeah. Now, I'm familiar with, the brand registering it and doing videos, but just for others that maybe aren't, maybe explain a little bit. If I'm just a common seller and I threw a couple items up there, what do I need to do to be able to start posting videos, or can I right off the get-go? Now, I know the answer to this, but why don't you help us?
Exactly. So in order to get access to brand registry in Amazon, you have to have a trademark in the country within which you are selling. So if you are selling on Amazon.com, that's in the US. Previously, and if you go look in blog posts about this, you'll probably see this information, you could use a trademark from various different countries. I think there were 8 of them. But as of around 4 or 5 months ago, Amazon stopped allowing that. So if you are if you have a registered trademark in the country you are selling in, excuse me.
That's all right.
Then you'll be good to go with brand registry. And that not only gives you the ability to list images or list videos in your image block, but also create that enhanced brand content we were talking about,
sure,
where you have images and your logo, et cetera, within the description instead of just blocks of text. And then also, it gives you access to some tools that help you protect your brand name you can submit cases for people that are infringing on your rights a little bit faster than you could through the normal seller support system.
Yeah, so just to kind of go a little off topic here, if anybody's interested on some of the legals of people jumping on your listings or dealing with photos and stuff like that, we did a great meetup last month with Jeff Schick. He's an attorney who not only sells on Amazon, he helps out Amazon sellers that have issues. He has some great content to kind of go off of what you just said there. Yep. So let's go back to the videos. What kind of suggestions do you have if I'm going to do a product video? Is there like do's and don'ts on that?
So we found with the video shorts, it's better to have the long form content there. It's kind of the same thing as a description, where any client that's made it that far down the page needs to be convinced or needs to be informed a lot more so than others. So we go for longer form videos there, 2 to 3 minutes. If it's a really in-depth product, like with some of the appliances we used to sell, there were full assembly videos that were 5 to 6 minutes long there,
wow,
and troubleshooting videos, etc. But with the image block videos, you really want something short, sweet, and to the point.
Yeah.
15 to 30 seconds. A supercut video, essentially, of any marketing videos you have usually works pretty well.
Yeah.
But something short for the image block that'll convince the customer really quickly, just like the rest of your images, hopefully.
Yeah. If I don't have a big budget and I want to get this video done, should I just grab my iPhone and shoot one? I mean, the iPhones are shooting pretty good quality video now, 4K, and what do you recommend on that?
I don't recommend that one.
Okay.
So I think that any content you add to a listing on Amazon is going to have a net effect of either increasing or decreasing conversions. And anything that's unprofessional, even if it serves a really good point to illustrate something that's very imperative with your product, is going to decrease conversions if it's unprofessional. Just because it doesn't look right, If I have a product that I'm showing how it works, but I'm doing it, in my basement with my hand in the picture and a camera or a camera phone, it may show off what my product does really well, but people are going to be confused by it, and it's not the most illustrative you could be in an image or video. Again, if I'm on a lower budget, any recommendations on where I could find somebody? Should I just go to Fiverr? And I mean, because if I go to Fiverr, they're not going to have the product, right? They won't have the product. Right. So
what do we recommend as maybe a way to get that video done? But I'm still working up to being a big brand, and I'm kind of not there.
Method that we've actually been able to use for a couple of our clients that didn't have a very good face to use for their brand is influencers. So you can reach out to a bunch of influencers, ask if they want to review your product, and use a cut of their video in that product description so that you can have something a little more professional without having to put the money down yourself to have lights, cameras, and all the equipment that comes with actually making good looking video.
Yeah. Let's go a little bit back to the giveaways, or we talked about that, but let's say I have a meetup and we decide, hey, I'm going to give everybody in here an item that I'm selling on Amazon. I'm not going to ask them to go leave a product review, but let's say some of them are nice enough to go do that. So what kind of effect could that have on my account?
So Amazon Terms of Service says you can ask customers that purchased your item elsewhere to leave a review on Amazon. Unfortunately, like a lot of the things Amazon says in their TOS, we found in function this is not the case. I've seen many accounts that have had performance notifications or been suspended for that exact issue. So you really want to try and avoid large velocities of unverified reviews under any case. And the easiest and most frequent time I see that is when people ask their existing customers to go leave a review on Amazon, because it's what Amazon says.
Yeah.
But then Amazon slaps them on the wrist for it.
So there's a couple articles that came out this week that talked about some black hat things going on with the whole world of not only just like products being up there and they start with one product and they get all these reviews and then they switch to a different product or somebody takes it over. How could I make sure that, let's go from a buyer's point of view, right? I want to buy a product. How do I kind of like, what's your thought process from kind of a launch point of view that you guys are trying to say, hey, we're not that, we got this great product, come here, look at ours. You maybe touch on that a little bit on how I could maybe avoid or make sure I get a really good product or do a little research in that, title, description, looking at the product reviews. What do you think on that?
So I really think that being able to have leads that you're pushing towards the listing during its infancy is going to be the key there. And there's a billion different ways you could do that. Pretty much any standard marketing technique to generate leads would work. What we find works really well are Facebook ads.
Okay.
And Facebook bots too at that. So
Okay.
Attached to said ads. And they help increase engagement and give the customer a little bit more of a sense of being in on something before anyone knows about it, and they get them excited about the product, and they get the feeling of talking to someone too with the bot. It really keeps them engaged for the launch. So that way you're able to drive traffic to your listing, which will then increase your keyword rank for your relevant keywords, and then the people who are looking for your product will see it. When it comes to spotting products that have had black hat stuff done to them on the front end, if you're not someone with a lot of time who's rather savvy, it's going to be kind of hard to tell. The easiest way is scroll back a couple pages on their reviews.
Sure.
And look at the product name and the images that are being submitted for the product. The most common tactic right now that people are doing is finding old listings of either similar items or ones that are entirely different, that are just really old, and they'll merge the listing pages together. So you have a new product and an old product that has 30,000 reviews but hasn't had inventory in 2 years. Well, now you have a new product with 30,000 reviews.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, or not fortunately for our sake, for legitimate folks and consumers, they can't change the text within said reviews. So it's pretty obvious if you actually dig into it what's happening. But just looking at the front of a listing, seeing their star review rating and how many reviews they have, it's pretty hard to tell what's legitimate and what's not these days.
Yeah. And the only reason I bring it up, and I'm not saying you guys do, obviously you don't do that.
Right.
And it's more to bring it up that people are getting ready to get started. They're going to read stuff, right? They're going to read articles. They're going to see what gets me that edge. I'm new to the market. These other companies have thousands of sales and they're dominating it. How do I get in there?
Yep.
And the reason why I was bringing this up is because these are things that you don't want to do. Even if you're small and you're getting started and you're like, I got really not much to risk to do it. Don't, because you build up a brand or build up your product and it becomes successful, and then they go back and find out you did some of those things. They're going to take you off there in a second.
Exactly. And they really do care a lot of the times for stuff that happened a long time ago and accounts that people forgot they've even set up. You get banned setting something up for your employer and then later decide to set up something for yourself using the same phone number or perhaps credit card.
Yep.
And banned.
I've even heard maybe IPs too.
Yes, IPs, and then beyond that even device codes, MAC addresses of your computer, of your router, of the closest switch. So it's they get pretty in depth with the data points that they actually track.
Yeah.
Screen resolution, so on and so forth. Like all of the standard things you would track, plus anything else they can get their hands on.
So disclaimer, we're assuming that they're doing all these because they haven't made it public that they do all that.
They haven't necessarily made it public. Let's put it that way.
Just like the A9 algorithm, they don't tell you exactly, but...
Correct. However, as part of those black hat services, there are a lot of guys that are literally just bribing employees in other countries and getting access to internal documentation. So I know pretty strongly that a lot of those things are for sure tracked, even though Amazon hasn't actually said it themselves.
Sure.
And at this point in time, who knows how old the documents that are floating around are. So that may not be the case anymore, or they could be identifying people through some other means as well. So I've even seen recently that they are putting a random two-factor authentication in where you will have to cam up with a webcam and show your face and make sure that it matches the identification that's on file, mainly for sellers outside of the U.S.
Wow, okay. Let's get back to the launch part, right? Product, or what was it? Inserts.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about inserts. Yes, no, do's and don'ts.
Inserts are a little iffy, especially because most people who sell on Amazon don't want to waste the manpower / money or the logistical nightmare that is packing inserts into products for all their products. And that is not Amazon Terms of Service compliant. So having things in your packaging that are marketing towards Amazon customers specifically is not okay. However, if you were to design something similar, if you have a coupon on your product packaging that is on every single product that you sell, no matter where you sell it, that's a different matter. They can't get upset at you for manufacturer's packaging. However, they can get upset at you for including marketing materials. So we find that a properly designed package or a customer service only insert can help turn away negative reviews and kind of help establish a brand identity a little bit more, and hopefully get customers to come back and purchase from you again.
Yeah, so there's a lot of do's and don'ts on this. So if you need to include directions on how to use the product or which buttons do, even though you had them in the images we talked about, you can include the directions in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even a link to said directions. Just don't provide a link to your own website to go purchase the product there.
Exactly. Yeah. And then what about also registering for like a warranty?
So that is actually a very common insert that we see, is either registering for a warranty or extension of a warranty. And that gets the customer info so that you're able to say, okay, this is tied to this order, which can be helpful through other means, but also just for the actual warranty aspect is very nice to have. That way people aren't buying a new product and then swapping it out with the old one and saying, hey, I just bought this, it's still in warranty, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so you got to be careful. Just be careful, read the TOS, terms of service.
Exactly. Make sure that even if you are collecting customer info, that you're not marketing to them. That is still technically terms of service non-compliant, even if they are giving you the information through a compliant means. So there's a lot of things you really have to watch out for when it comes to pushing anything off of Amazon. So for beginners, I would definitely caution them to tread lightly in that area.
Yeah, that's definitely a good tip. What else did I miss? Did I miss anything? Because we can get to a Q&A here.
One big one is watch your keyword rankings.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of software out there that will automatically check what rank you're indexing for what keywords, and that's kind of a really good leading indicator of what your sales are going to be in the future. If you look at your keyword rank, your sales, your conversion rate, and your traffic, you can tell when your keyword rank drops, it's going to drop your traffic, and that's going to drop your number of sales.
Yeah.
So anytime you can kind of catch that and nip it in the bud, do something like increase your pay-per-click bids for that keyword, or send some outside traffic to the listing through that keyword by having them search, find, buy through Amazon's front end for your product is a good idea. And that way you're able to maintain the sales velocity under that keyword and keep it kind of higher up.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about pricing, like strategically pricing something? And I don't mean in a sense that, like we were talking earlier, where you price it low and then raise it up. But when you guys work with people, do they ever ask you, like, hey, help us, get the pricing on this going, like understand?
Most of the clients that reach out to us have already started their Kickstarter or crowdfunding or selling stuff just lightly. So they already have a pretty good idea of what price it's going to be sold for, or at least a minimum of what it should be sold for, because we don't ever want to upset any of the customers that came from crowdfunding. They supported the project before there was ever a physical product, so we don't ever really want to give anyone a better price than them. So that locks us in a little bit. But that being said, Amazon is not a very price-sensitive market. It's the average Amazon shopper has 2 times the average household income of the United States. They're very much focused on convenience and quality more so than price. A lot of the times we'll actually see, if we have a product that's in kind of a luxury category, but the client is vertically integrated or was very efficient with their manufacturing processes, so on and so forth, they have a lower cost than everyone else in their category. We actually see a lot lower, not only conversion rate, but also traffic from that listing until we raise the price to be similar to the rest of the market. And then on the flip side of that, a lot of the times, and especially probably about 1.5 years ago, pricing was taken pretty heavily into account with A9. Recently, the past 4 months or so, it doesn't really seem to be that big of a thing. It's really just conversions for like sale conversions under a certain keyword is what drives the ranking. So with I lost my train of thought.
That's all right.
So sorry.
We're going over a lot of stuff. So
the
keyword ranking. That's right. We can move on to something else.
I completely lost that. I'm so sorry.
What was that? Price?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about price.
So thank you. Pricing is not that much of an issue anymore. We have a couple clients that have 5x the price of every other item in their category, and they're sitting in position 1, 2, and 3 for their main keywords with hundreds of thousands of exact searches per month. So it's very possible, especially if you have those unique selling propositions. The one item in particular that I'm thinking of that is actually 7 to 8 times the price of any other item in its category, like on the front page, has 3 patents, and all those patents are their USPs, and they're very apparent just by looking at the product in comparison to the other ones on the page that it's different, and in a manner that very much makes the price reasonable.
Yeah. If I'm missing any services you guys offer, let me ask a couple questions. Do you guys help with packaging? Do you help with sourcing? Is there any? I know you're more like launching,
exactly,
which most people have already got to that point that they have the packaging or the product. But
for sure, we will definitely help people along in those ways. Since we run our own physical product company as well, we have our own contacts for that. So we can push you towards people that we know will do good work, and we can give you our best practices for what you should do in that space. We prefer not to, just for the high speed, low drag factor of everything.
Sure.
But we definitely don't help with product sourcing either. That's the, in my opinion, highest, like most cumbersome part of a physical product business, other than the capital and logistics side. And as someone who can market really well, I don't want to spend my time searching for products to sell. And if I did, I would sell them for myself.
Sure. So why don't we go ahead and wrap it up? Give a big round of applause for Nick Valke. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, Nick. My name is Avni. We already met. So I had a question regarding for beginner sellers or your clients who are at beginner level. Do you recommend a basic suite of products for them to get started, like for product research, launch, and tracking keywords?
So as far as product suites go, a lot of the ones that are all-in-one aren't necessarily the best, or some of their tools are the best, but using, all of it for one is not necessarily the best idea. And even of the ones that work well, we find because Amazon changes stuff so often, be it the place where the person's getting the data or the actual algorithm through which they're creating whatever it is you're trying to find out, the best software to use at any given point in time changes rather often. I would say join the Facebook groups, join the Feedback Wiz Facebook group, and any type of really any social media or networking you can do towards Amazon. And that gives you more data points through your colleagues in those masterminds, in those groups, to figure out, hey, this is what's working, this is what's actually true. There's out of the keyword indexing softwares that check where you're ranked, there's like 4 or 5, and only 2 of them right now are actually displaying the correct data. So being able to, just like anything else Amazon, you have to keep your ear to the ground and look at everyone else's experiences and try and learn from that before you end up signing up for a yearly contract on something that won't actually help you.
I have a question about importing. Like, say you're importing from China. Mm-hmm. Once your products come into the U.S. ports, do you need to have a customs agent clear your products? Or what would you recommend?
So you definitely need... I'm not sure if I think you may be a little confused with your question, right? So you don't need a customs, or you mean not a Customs and Border Patrol agent, but you mean a clearing agent.
A clearing agent.
Got you. Yes, I would say definitely use one. It's really easy to misclassify freight or something like that on your shipments, which affect your import fees. And if Customs and Border Patrol ever decides, hey, that's the incorrect fee, incorrect class for this product, they'll go back for everything you've ever imported and change the class on it and bill you for it. So you really want to make sure that gets fixed from the bat. And then beyond that, a lot of the times there are slight clerical issues when getting customs clearing done, and the clearing houses know everything like the back of their hand. It's all they do every day. So it's really, really helpful to have someone with that experience there. So you're not having to fight with Customs and Border Patrol saying like, hey, but I thought I filled this out right. Right.
So what would you recommend is the best way to find that sort of?
That's a really hard one because they're a lot of the times velocity based. Like some of them will not work with you if you're under a certain volume, and some of them will work with you if you're over a certain volume. The most commonly recommended, really 3PL and customs clearer all in one, is Flexport. Right. They have high fees, but they're very easy to use. They have a nice dashboard. They also won't work with you if you're low volume, though. So that's the main issue. There are a lot of different clearinghouses around, though. I would say work with someone who's closest to whatever port you're bringing the product in. That way, they hopefully have some local connections and can smooth stuff over if something does go wrong.
As far as the PPC campaign goes, what would you recommend is a good starting everyday spend?
That really depends on your category, right? So if you're in something like supplements, your cost per click is going to be in the dollars. Right. Whereas if you're in something less competitive, it's going to be in 12 cents per click or something much, much, much lower. So it really depends on what your product is.
Okay.
What category are you in?
I'm in baby category.
Okay, yeah.
So say it's like 50 cents, per click.
Is it a niche item though?
Yes. So
that seems decently high if it's a truly niche item. What I would say is look at your cost per click by keyword and see what's converting and what's not. So then you can actually individually change the bids on those single keywords and nix any ones that aren't getting you any sales. So that way you can figure out okay, this is a keyword I should be getting conversions for, but I'm not getting any traffic for it, so I need to up my bid a little bit. Okay. And that's the most impactful data you'll be able to pull from there. So if you've been running an automatic campaign for a while, you should have a pretty good idea, or not should, but you'll be able to figure out pretty well which keywords working. You should bid more on. Yeah.
Okay.
I just got a question about USPs. So I sell in supplements. Mm-hmm. Just want to know, in terms of USPs, what have you seen that have worked really well?
Supplements are pretty hard because for you to actually say anything really compelling, you have to have a clinical study done. Otherwise, as I'm sure you've experienced, you try and make any large claim, Amazon will be like, okay, where's your proof? And pull your listing. So if you can afford clinical studies, that would be the best way to do it. The thing is, a lot of supplements, there are already studies done on. So you can figure out what you're going to say before you have your study done. If you're, for example, using something like argan oil in regards to how it helps you heal scars faster, but your product has more than argan oil in it, you have a pretty good idea that it's going to have the same effects as the argan oil. So you can go ahead and write that and then get the testing done. I wouldn't post it to Amazon yet. But when you're doing your product research, you can kind of think of that as the style of testing that you want to do for your product, so you can make those claims yourself.
What are the steps for opening multiple Amazon storefronts?
So you have to have a product and brand that aren't in the same space. Step number one. From there, you just reach out to Seller Central. So if you have one account already, you would just open a case and say, hey, I'm looking to open a second account selling these products. This is why I don't want it associated with this account. And it could be something as simple as, I don't want to dilute my brand image. And a lot of the times if you're selling in different categories, it just wouldn't make sense. So you can say, to better inform the customer or something along those lines. Okay. But as long as you ask Amazon and you have a product that's different, they'll make you agree to not sell the same products on the accounts, and then they'll give you the approval to open a second one.
Okay, and that's if I already have products that are mixed into one that I want to separate out, that would work?
So you could do that. You would just close the listings on the one account and then go ahead and associate your inventory on the other account with those listings. So you wouldn't even have to create new listings or anything. You can just stop selling it on that account and start selling it on the other.
Okay, and one more question. What percentage of PPC advertising budget do you use compared to other advertising?
So it really comes down to the niche again. Ones that are more competitive, we see a lot higher pay-per-click costs because the customer lifetime value is much higher. We tend to not focus on pay-per-click for the long-term focus of a product. We like to pay attention to our organic search term index ranks, and that's how we we use less pay-per-click than other agencies, I would say, by paying attention to our organic keyword ranking.
Okay.
I just want clarification on the organic keyword ranking. Mm-hmm. So you said earlier that now Amazon uses mainly the title and then the background keywords for keyword ranking and not the bullets and description, right?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
What do you find is the best way to get reviews?
That's a real hard one. So, with supplements in particular, I would say look at the funnels of some of your competitors. They have really impactful manufacturers' packaging that usually has really compelling offers on it, that they then ask the customer to give their thoughts on the item and push that review through. So it's kind of dancing around the TOS issue in regards to Amazon, but it's what every supplement company on the market does currently, and a majority of them have actually had Amazon audit their reviews. They've gone through their entire flow. Pretty much any of the big name supplement brands that I'm sure you know. And
Schwartz?
that is one of them.
Okay.
But Amazon went through their flows, determined that everything was compliant, and relisted their reviews. So even though it is kind of a ethically ambiguous method, it is a compliant method.
Big round of applause again for Nick, please. All right, cool, man. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
You got it.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and for more information, please visit feedbackwiz.com.